Hi, and welcome to Mark's Motivational Podcast for another Author's Tuesday. So I'm delighted today to be joined by another great guest author, Celia Norman Smith. So it's great to welcome Celia on today to the podcast. She's an author of The Tales of Harry also. So I'm really looking forward to talking to Celia today. It's been we've been trying to do this for the last while, so it's great to have you on, Celia. Thanks very much for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too. Thanks very much. So, can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and your journey as a writer? You say in your bio you were a shepherd in Scotland. Can you just tell the listeners a little bit about that, please?
Well, I start just before there. I was 4 years at art school in the 70s in Brighton.
Yeah.
And after a couple of failed projects, I decided to go to New Zealand. I knew nothing about sheep, but I'd been invited to help with the muster at Mount Cook Station for the shearing. And I absolutely loved it. Fell in love, not just necessarily with sheep, but the whole way of life.
Okay.
So after a year in New Zealand, I came back and retrained at Plumpton Agricultural College, and then met my husband, and we came up to Scotland, and I did contract shepherding. So that's how I got into shepherding. And then my husband was he was my late husband. He was a writer and an editor, but he was also a head gardener, and we met on an estate down south and came up to Scotland, and we looked after estates up here and lived off the land. So that's how I got into shepherding. And I was already a knitter and I loved wool. So it was just wonderful. And I got asked to be the shepherd for someone who bred pedigree Shetland sheep. They're also in the book. So the stories in the Tales of Harry also are from my experiences. Lots of little anecdotes from woodland, from shepherding, from beekeeping. Um, yeah, that's as I say, my husband was a head gardener as well. So Harry also is actually he was our scarecrow in our organic vegetable garden. So
Wow,
that's how that arrived.
great. No, it sounds like a very educational book for kids. Like you were selling, it's for age 10 and over.
Yes, although people who've reviewed it, there's some great reviews on the Book Guild
Right.
website, and
Yeah.
people have said for all ages, so it's not just for kids. But I think for kids reading it on their own, definitely 10
Right.
and
Yeah.
plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Yes, it sounds really good. I'm looking forward to getting it from my own family. So that's great. Great
Oh,
stuff.
super. Yeah, I think it is a Scottish fairy tale. It's a grimesque fairy tale. So there are goodies, and then there are the real baddies, the droigs, and it's really it does have morals in it, as I say, very grimesque. So you're looking at a lot of fun in it, but there's also some deep trauma, and that was the reason I wrote it. Do you want me to talk about that, or?
Yeah, well, it's up to you. If you're happy to do that,
Yeah,
Celia.
yes, I've been writing for a long time, but just diaries, travel diaries. And then after I'd had my two girls, we had a, a real traumatic time, one of the children. And I think it was my guilt as a mother that it had happened that was tearing me inside. And I somehow had to find a counterpoint to the pain. And that was my writing. And a small drawing that my one of my daughters did just inspired me to this character, Pee Wee, who has this trauma within the book that he can't tell anyone. And I think that's why I wrote it. I wanted to express to children and to anyone, adults as well, that if you have trauma that you feel you can't tell anyone, you can. There is friends, it doesn't have to be family, it could be anyone, but try just to start that conversation. And that's why I wrote the first book. After I wrote the first book, the other two just came. They were journeys into a different stage of life, you could say, maybe a different environment. So the second one is Harry's Holiday. That comes out at the end of this February. And
Great.
then the next one is Harry Joins the Circus. And that's about, young people moving on and finding, say, sexuality, how to move on in life. Where do you go? What do you do with it? So,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's the trilogy.
yeah, yeah. No, it sounds like very educational for children, and great messages and help for anybody that's gone through any kind of trauma.
Yes, that I
Yeah,
hope. I hope so.
yeah,
That's the aim. Yes,
yeah,
as
yeah,
well as to entertain. I think that's
yeah.
what
Of
writers
course.
do.
Yeah,
We're there
yeah,
also to entertain,
yeah.
and that's why I've done the illustrations as well.
Great. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to sharing them all on the excuse me on the show notes, and you can send me the links for me to put them up on the show notes as well for people to buy who living in Ireland and across the world.
Okay. Yes. So you would like some of the illustrations sent through
Mm.
to you?
Yeah, well, even if you want to, no,
Yeah.
even if you want to send me the links for where people can buy the book, where can people purchase the book, Celia?
Okay. Well, you could. It's my website, which is Celia Norman Smith, all one word,
Yeah,
.co.uk, and
great. Yeah,
you can actually read about the book and the characters, and then
mm,
there's a video and some free downloads, and then you can press a button and purchase it from the publisher, the Book Guild Limited.
yeah. That's great. Yeah, because so that's probably the easiest way for people to get their hands on the book, is it, Celia?
Yes, yes. Or what I like to say is you can go to your local bookshop, because we
Great.
need to encourage
Definitely.
people to bookstop
Yeah.
bookshops. So some of the Waterstones have it. Yep.
So they're in a lot of the bookshops around.
Well, you can order it from your bookshop, and it
Oh,
shouldn't take
great.
them long, 2 or 3 days. That's all. But I try and encourage people to go to their bookshop, so we keep
Definitely.
them in our high street.
Great idea. Yeah, and I'll be definitely a fan of that myself. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, to keep it in the its bookshop because it's everything is going online now, so it's trying to. I think it's better to be honest. What do you think about that?
Yeah, but I mean, if you take your kids or just go into a bookshop and go and have a look at the books, there's some
Yeah,
beautifully illustrated books for children and
yeah,
adults. There's
yeah,
comics, there are graphic novels,
yeah,
historicals, pictures, and just go in there. There's nothing like the physicality of holding a book and going,
definitely.
"Wow."
Yeah,
And then
exactly. Yeah,
2 hours later,
yeah,
they chuck you out of the bookshop. Yeah, a lot of the bookshops now have wonderful sofas and a coffee machine. So yeah, definitely go on down. Yeah.
yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, because no, and like I'm over in Ireland, so can people go to the bookshops and they be able to order it in any bookshop? Would it be, or would that
I
is
would
that,
think so. I'm not.
yeah,
I would
yeah.
think in Ireland, as long as you've got the ISBN number,
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah,
which is
yeah,
on the which is on
yeah,
the website, or
yeah,
you can go to uh, the Book Guild
yeah,
website, and it's on in their
yeah,
bookshop. So you could. But as I
yeah.
say, if you've got the ISBN number and just go in, and they're on all the computers.
Yeah, congratulations. That's great, Celia. No,
Thank you very much.
they
Yes,
look really, really good. And
it's
where did the
been quite nervous though. I don't know if any of your other authors have said this, but it's really stressful. The writing bit is
yeah,
a joy,
it
but
is.
then you've got the process of getting it
No, yeah,
accepted
but,
by a publisher, and then
yeah,
gosh, yeah, it's quite
but, ver-
stressful.
but very well done in getting a publisher because a lot of people, me included, went down the self-publishing route. But
Okay.
it's great that you've got a digit. Did it take you long to get a publisher, Celia?
Yes, it did. Well, I wrote the books in 015, 016, and then through illness and also looking after my late husband,
Yeah, I'm
there was a
sorry.
gap in time, and then I thought, oh, well, it was Harry actually who kept saying, come on, you've got to find somebody. So
Yeah,
I eventually, through an article, contacted the Book Guild. I'd been through others, and I tried to get an agent, but nobody had really was interested. Or I'd got some interest and some really good feedback, so I thought, right,
great.
keep going. And then the Book Guild offered me a deal where you pay a small amount. It's not that much, but I think it covers, the editing and typesetting and stuff like that. So yeah, I was thrilled when
Yeah.
they did it. I was very lucky. My late husband was a writer and editor, and so
Right, yeah.
the script was in quite good condition, if you say, when I put it forward to the publishers. So that was good.
And as I said, there's a lot of the monkey work is done by the publisher then. Like if you're self-publishing, you have to do a lot of that stuff yourself, you know?
I couldn't do that. I don't have that energy. I'd also been poorly myself, but I thought, no, I just leave it to the pros.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
well done. Yeah, it's
yeah.
great. And where thanks very much for sharing all the CD. It's great. And where did the journey start for yourself with your writing? Have you always been writing yourself? I know you said
Well,
go ahead. Sorry.
no, no. Well, when I was at primary school many years ago, I was very encouraged by one of my teachers there. She was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah,
Um, she knew I was dyslexic, or in those days, it was kind of you couldn't read and write properly. But she still encouraged me, and that was wonderful. I went to secondary school, and it was the complete opposite.
mm,
I had teachers who teased me, and I won't go into that because it's not very nice. But
yeah,
I just kept writing my diaries. But I also loved my art. So I did most of my expression was through drawing, just chucking paint, pottery. I used to do ceramics with my mum, and then I went to art college. So my writing kept happening because I kept traveling and I had travel diaries with illustrations in them. So when I came back and went through this period in my life with the kids and stuff and needed to do something about the trauma that had happened in our family, I just decided to write. And then, of course, I had my husband who just helped me with the editing. I mean, he used to laugh a lot because I invented words, and yeah, it was quite interesting. So
yeah.
yeah, that's how I got to write the book. I've always wanted to do it, but never had that inspiration because of the dyslexia. And I, in fact, didn't read very much until my youngest daughter, when she was about, I think, 11 or 12, said, Mom, oh, you've got to read this book. And I went, oh, do I have to? She said, oh, yeah, it's really, and she really encouraged me. And so I thought, well, I better read it. And then we
Yep.
started discussing the books together that
Brilliant.
we
Yeah,
read. And I couldn't believe I'd wasted, 30 odd years of my life not reading books.
yeah.
And so it's a joy now.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same as you, Celia. I know exactly how you feel. But
Really?
isn't it great that with any adversity, like with well, not adversity, but with a thing called dyslexia, like not to let that hold you back. That's a great message you're giving here, Celia.
Well, I can't express the joy that books bring me.
Yeah, yeah,
And I still can't
mm,
read as well as I should do. But I would encourage people, if they have children or they are dyslexic, to try and get a one-to-one help from a teacher. And I was very lucky. I lived in a school, and my father got one of the teachers in his school to give me extra lessons. I had to have English to get into Brighton Art College, and I think it was my third or fourth go. And once I had the one-to-one with someone who sat me down and explained it in very simple terms, how to construct a sentence, and then your vocabulary will come later. And if you can't spell it, it doesn't matter. You've got spell check, or you've got a friend, or my mother used to help me. So yeah, yeah, definitely.
lot
If you're out there with dyslexia but want to write, get one. If you can get one-to-one help, it's amazing.
brilliant. I'm so happy it worked out so well for you, and here you are with two books, published by publishers. So very well done to you. Two books, or how many books have you got out there? Sorry.
Well, I've got two. I've done some short stories before, but there's
Right.
hopefully a third one in the pipeline. But
Brilliant. Yeah.
yeah, called
Uh,
that. Yeah, yeah.
wh- whenever you have new ones out, make sure you send them to me. I can put them, update them on the show notes for everybody that listens and watches this show.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Of course, of course. Can I just ask as well, Celia, what kind of keeps you motivated in your writing as well? If sometimes you could hit a metaphorical wall with your writing, which happens to some people. What kind of keeps you motivated to keep going with it?
I think my kids are a brilliant motivation, and I now have a
Mm.
little grandson.
Oh,
But
congratulations.
I'm, thank you, I'm very lucky. Pardon me. I've got a caravan just a few miles away from where I live, and I just go there, and it's about 50 yards, what's that in meters, 70 or some meters away from the high tide mark. And it, I just get inspired by sitting there and going, gosh, I'm so lucky to look out a window where I write and see the North Sea. And
Oh,
sometimes there are dolphins, sometimes there are whales, and
brilliant.
sometimes there's a storm, which is amazing.
Mm.
So the second book, as you can gather, is set on the east coast of Angus, and it can be wild. And Harry has a great adventure, so I hope people enjoy that one. But yes, I'm motivated by the landscape. I'm motivated by wildlife, and I'm motivated by family and friends.
Right. Like it's so important, gratitude, isn't it really? Even like to kind of keep a gratitude journal or write three things every morning. Do you find that?
Uh, yeah, I've actually not done my journal for a while because of doing the writing. I found I couldn't do both. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
So maybe I ought to get back into that.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, it's good. No, thanks very much for that. And do you have a strategy in your writing as well? What I mean by that, do you have kind of when you're writing your books, would you write a certain amount of words a day, or what way do you do it yourself, Celia?
Um, well, again, when I'm at the caravan, it's quite a discipline. I get up and I'll have my coffee and whatever, and go for a nice walk on the beach, even if it's really wild. And then I come back and I just think about what I want to put down on the page today, and I just let it. I don't say I've got to do 500 words or 1,000 words. I didn't restrict myself that way. It's just not my style. For some people it is, and some people have deadlines, so I totally understand other people's ways. But school to me was not a very nice experience, and it was very structured, and I just can't do that with my writing or even my art. I just know I've got to get it done, but I didn't have a timeline, so I was lucky there. Yeah, I was lucky, so I can work within what I want to do.
That sounds like a really good strategy to me. Yeah, because like whenever you have like not to put yourself under too much pressure, it's just let it flow, really, isn't it?
I couldn't work. Pressure to me, as I say, it was worse once the publisher had said yes than writing it. It was.
Yeah,
I've got a quote here, actually. I don't know if anybody would be interested. It's from a young Swiss writer. She was born in the 1920s and tragically died very young. But I read this the other day and I thought it just summed some things up. Is it okay if I just say that?
of course, yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
The quote is, one can write a book for different reasons, out of vanity, out of poverty, or as a calling. I, for one, like to recite a phrase that I once read. The dancer dances, the artist creates, the musician plays. Because all three wish to be freed from tension, this is how they find their release, by communicating to others. And that was from her diary. Now, I think the word there that struck me, to be free from tension, and I thought that was so right. That tension that you feel when you, yeah, it really showed me. Um,
It really
and
shows you, it kind of really resonated with you. Yeah,
yes, it did
yeah,
absolutely. I think because
yeah.
of why I wrote the book, but I think if they always say, if you've got a drama, you've got to have conflict in your book, and so there is the tension not only within you and the book you're writing, but the characters within. If that tension isn't there, to express,
Hmm.
then yeah, I think that is such a good quote from a very, very young writer.
It's a lovely quote, yeah, and you read it so well as well. I just kind of thinking there, do you ever think of um, narrating your books, like to is that something you've thought of, or?
I thought I would, but I'd love to have somebody who knows how to do the Glaswegian accent to do Harry
Oh,
also.
oh, brilliant!
Be-
Yeah,
yeah,
great idea.
because the Campsie Fells, where it is, the garden was at the foot of the Campsie Fells, and I love the Glaswegian accent, and I can't do it. My daughters can, but because they grew up there,
Yeah,
so
that
but I
that could
just
be
love
that could
it.
be
And
that could be an idea there.
yeah, if there's anybody out there with it who likes doing accents, and then
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, great stuff.
I'd
Yeah.
love to be able to. I mean, I mess around with them, but they always end up sounding Welsh.
Brilliant. Yeah, yeah. Well, then, no, it's like the way you read that the quote there was really good. So just I'd say that to you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. And what authors could you say influenced kind of influenced you or kind of inspired you so to speak?
Well, when I had the story for Harry also, it took me a couple of years probably to find a style
Mm,
because it's quite an unusual style it's written in. And I had read The Living Mountain by Nan Shepherd, and I just fell in love with it in the way that she wrote about the mountains that she grew up around, which is um, the Cairngorms. And I thought, wow, she has that ability to just write how she wanted to write rather than in a format. So that's what I tried to do, and I loved that book. I thoroughly recommend it.
very,
I
very nice. Yeah.
mean, if you're trying to find a style, then you just keep reading till you enjoy how somebody writes, and then see if that's what you want to put into your writing. And let the characters go. I mean, my characters, people say, oh no, the characters don't. Harry and my characters definitely took on a meaning in when I was writing. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, they definitely do. They definitely do take meaning on. I agree with you 100% there.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But like no, because that sounds really good. What's the name of the author there again for that book you just mentioned?
Okay, it's Nan Shepherd. I
Chap-
think she died in the 70s, but
Okay.
she was, she wrote The Living Mountain, I think in the 50s, no, just at the end of the war, Second World War. So yeah, and she knew every inch of where she walked. Yeah, she's quite a well-known Scottish
Mhm.
author. Yeah,
Yeah, because no, that's a great idea what you're saying there about reading different types of books and authors to give you an idea of what kind of way you'd like to write. So that's great, Celia. Thanks so much for that.
I used to also buy, because I didn't read a lot, or didn't think I could read a lot. I bought books that were illustrated, and I bought books of the illustrations that I loved or
Oh
liked,
yeah, yeah.
and that's how I got into
Mm,
thinking I'd one day like to write and illustrate my own books.
mm.
I didn't know they'd be for children, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. What I'd love to do is again, Celia, sometime we could tonight when your book is out in February, if you could come back on and maybe show the people on YouTube all the books you've written would be fantastic.
absolutely. I'd really enjoy that. Yes, this has
Yeah,
been fun.
yeah, no, thank you. And can I just ask you as well, I know you mentioned that book there, but what other books do you enjoy reading when you're relaxing?
Oh gosh. Well, I thought with all the troubles that was happening in Europe and now further apart, I'd read the story of the Russian Chronicles, but that's a bit heavy going, but
Yeah.
very interesting, very interesting.
Mm,
And
yeah.
then I've been reading Jess Burton. What was it called? The Miniaturist. And then she's got a couple of other books. And I really like her writing. And then I like the American Southern writers. I loved Their Eyes Are Watching God by Zora Neale Houston, or Houston, some people say. And that is a tremendous book. I actually read it 4 times last year. It's a
Wow.
beautifully written well, a love story, but it's
Mm.
the dialogue that I love, and she's just brilliant at it. And yeah, so I would thoroughly recommend her books, especially that one.
That's a nice list. Yeah, thanks very much. That's a good part of the show for me to get recommend some books. So that's great. Thank you.
That's okay. Yes.
Yeah. And
Oh,
is there any?
Barbara Kingsover. She's written some fantastic books, but her latest one, what was it called? Copper. Oh, what was it called? Oh, Damon Copperhead. Excellent book. That came out last year, I think, or the year before. Very, very good book. Thoroughly enjoyed that one. Yeah.
Sounds great. And is there any kind of non-fiction books you enjoy as well? Uh, Celia.
Well, the Russian Cro yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't. Can't really. No, I can't really off the top of my
Yeah.
head. I
Oh
should
no,
have
sorry.
looked at
Yeah, no,
questions
no.
before.
Yeah, yeah. No. I suppose movies. What would your favorite kind of films to watch when you're relaxing?
Well, I'm very partial to musicals, live or films. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
that was always our treat. Was when we were. I'm further north now, but either go to Glasgow, Edinburgh, and actually Aberdeen have got and see a musical with the kids.
Oh, very
The
good.
Lion
Yeah.
King,
Oh,
unbelievable.
brilliant.
It's a
Yeah.
great movie as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah. Great.
Uh,
And go ahead. Sorry.
no, no, it's fine.
Yeah. And your favorite kind of music to listen to as well, Celia? What's your favorite kind of music to listen to?
Oh, I love Edith Piaf. Yes, uh, the Eagles. I'm that old.
I know I love the Eagles
Uh,
myself. Yeah. Great stuff.
yeah,
Brilliant.
yeah, and I love the Rolling Stones.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah. They brought a new album out there this year, didn't they?
yes, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you get to listen to it?
No, I haven't yet. No,
Mm,
no,
mm,
been a bit
mm.
busy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. And do you ever
I,
listen to, sorry.
I've still got quite a lot of my old vinyls, or we used to call them LPs,
Oh, brilliant.
and we were just taking them out the other day, and there's the Monkeys and the Beach Boys.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. Great stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I've even got Dylan Thomas Under Milk Wood on vinyl, and I absolutely love it. So I was thrilled when I found that secondhand. Yeah.
Great stuff. Great stuff. And do you ever listen to music when you write? Is that something you ever do?
Well, yes, I do. Always find an album or a mix that I just put on, continual. Mhm. It just, once it's ended, it'll start again. And the first book, Harry, also, my mother used to play the piano and she played Chopin a lot. So I had a CD with some of Chopin, and that's in the book as well, one of his nocturnes. And then the second book, the one that's coming out at the end of February, um, I played Dub Tech Life on Earth by Ralph Stokes, and that's excellent. It's very atmospheric and it's beautiful, beautiful CD. And then the third one was James Morrison's Songs for You, Truth for You, no, Songs for You, Truths for Me. And I just had that on replay.
Yeah.
And it just helps me. I just like to try and get into a feeling or an atmosphere, and I find putting one CD on helps me to just keep that what I'm trying to put into my writing there in my head. Does that sound clear?
That sounds very clear. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, because I find that myself. Like sometimes when you're listening to music, maybe with not a lot of lyrics, but you kind of get in a flow state. I find that myself. Yeah.
Yeah, some people listen to I just can't listen to the radio. It has to be that one album.
Very
um,
good. Yeah, very good. No, that's great. Thanks very much for sharing all that with me. And your favorite places to travel as well, Celia.
Oh, my favorite place to travel. Well, I've traveled quite a bit. I've been very lucky, and I think probably New Zealand was the
Yeah.
best time.
Oh,
I
very
had a
nice.
whole year there, and
Lovely.
I'm an Anglo-Swiss, so I do go to Switzerland quite a bit. And I did the Trans-Canadian Railway, which was
Wow.
wonderful. Yeah, I thoroughly recommend if you're feeling down or just get on a train.
Yeah.
I thoroughly recommend traveling. It's a wonderful way to meet people, to experience different foods, different cultures, and this glorious planet. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, no, this sounds really because that's one place in my bucket list is New Zealand. All right, as well. Great stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah. No,
I did.
thanks a lot.
I didn't want to come home. I must admit, I didn't want to come
Yeah.
home. But
No, no, thanks a lot for coming on the podcast and sharing all your information there about your books. It's amazing, and could I just ask you one thing as well? I'd love to have you back on again to show your books off and maybe do a reading of one or two of them would be brilliant. Um, could you maybe give, excuse me, if you could give advice to other authors that are starting out, from what you've learned, what advice would you give them, Celia?
just starting out, keep writing, writing lots, reading lots, but also have someone who you trust
Yeah,
to look over what you've done. I know it can be scary to hand over your kind of your work to someone, but
yeah,
if you trust that person, do it, because the feedback is invaluable.
that's brilliant. Yeah, thanks so much for that. Thanks, it makes so much sense. And I wish you all the success going forward with all your books and all you do, Celia.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thanks
Yeah,
for inviting me.
no,
It's been grand.
yeah, no, appreciate it. Thanks very much. And definitely have you on again where you can share, show your illustrations, and definitely send me all you can there, and I'll put them on the show notes for you as well.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll get onto that.
Thank you. So, thanks everyone for tuning in today's podcast, Mark's Motivational Podcast, another Authors Tuesday with Celia Norman Smith. It was great having you on the podcast. Thanks again.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Mark here. Thank you for watching another episode of my Authors Tuesday podcast. I recently published a book of children's stories called The Adventures of Larry Lamppost and Friends. The book began life as bedtime stories I wrote for my own children. If you'd like to purchase my book, follow the link in the description box below. By buying my book, you are also supporting my podcast series for authors, which is giving a voice to writers in Ireland and across the world.